Disruptions. If anybody knows Angela Kinlaw, she's been really involved with Take 'Em Down, NOLA. And I saw this picture of her with the megaphone protesting and talking to the crowd. And I was sitting at home watching some live feed and wishing that I could be there. And so this was called Disruptions. I watched the news in unison with women rocking babies asleep, folding laundry in piles of days while Ferguson burns its garments. We sing soft uncertainties, work doubles, lift heavy men, use every muscle to smile. A woman talking like everybody's niece holds our demands on cardboard under street lights. Police sirens flash over her Black determination. I wonder if she knows me and us who weep behind duty and closed doors. We who cannot march without the consequence of empty refrigerators, payments, and feverish children. We want to die in the fields too, where the crown of our people brush truth down our daughters' backs. I want this midnight courage that cracks its voice at darkness, demands answers at front lines, sends war cries over the hills of night, organizing tomorrow on clipboards. Dear sisters, I wish I were a lion tamer like you, but who will remember my simple revolution to stay home and mother? The woman next door is yelling. The woman next door is yelling, why won't you love me right? Why won't you love me right? Not just why won't you love me, but why won't you love me right? Why won't you love me right? She screams into her phone. It's garbage day and it smells like war. Barefooted blues, sweaty cleavage, dripping like car oil down her fleshy driveway. I sit in my kitchen, listening to ex-lovers chirp like birds, cuss words between phone lines, tongue like a tennis racket, hitting back and forth, back and forth. I know this woman because I didn't always know me. Some of us never scream or ask why love cracks our walls. I want to know too why love hurts so early, why love reverses itself, why love hurts before eggs and school buses, why love ain't safe in July when she got snatched like a purse, emptied at 13. Nobody said nothing. All of this hurt from her porch before 9 a.m. Sounds like the beginning of rain inside a girl crawling to be loved. She don't know fresh air or cool lips on her shoulders. Thoughts pour hot. If you've ever smelled dying flowers, you've seen her grief. All this window shopping for happiness with a man who won't answer why. He leaves a woman naked the morning after. There's 3 diapers left and a son crying, and the lady next door is screaming like boiling water. Rage hanging like a clothesline in front of strangers, her tears drying, 1 cigarette at a time. This poem is not in the book. It's called If I Should Die a Black Woman. If I should die a Black woman, lying beside a plastic bottle, swollen faced, skin sliced, bruised for love, remember legs like mine, giving birth, knees up like mountains, little armies crawling between my toes, sucking like children. I am soft now, Mother Earth, defenseless as always. It's all right to kill me. It's all white to kill me. The slant sound of my name rings no alarm. Blonde hair women come in black too. Even the bad versions of ourselves deserve to be gathered from leaves. I'm hard to see with American eyes. Look at the naked you've loved since slavery. If I were missing from the plantation, police would come. Must I be a silhouette, bananaed and sexy as Josephine, willing as Jezebel? I am the news. I am the blood. I am the milk of this country. The farm of blessings, zipped in heavy history, buried among crops of women, black seeds spit out, warming earth like coal, my body a match, striking fire. Remember me, remember me, remember. Two more poems and then I am done. Let's see if I can do this poem. So in my book, let's see if I can show it. And this is the second edition. We made some changes in it, but I'm gonna read this poem called How Fast Must She Run for Serena Williams, since the new film is coming out, King Richard, about the Serena Williams sisters and her dad. But anyway, in 2015, there was this big to-do about her winning Sports Person of the Year. And they wanted, many people wanted the racehorse American Pharoah to win the award, and they were comparing her to a horse. So I thought, can I try to make a poem that looks like a race track? And so the poem is in the form of a racetrack, and you can read it as you're racing, but it's also racing race. So I'm gonna read this poem. Let's see. And it's in the voice of a horse race announcer. And they're off. America ahead, Serena on the outside, American Pharoah, a horse, of course, 4 feet versus 2. The grandstand sits bourbon in seersuckers and straw hats, fanning the heat of Southern memory when it was only them, only plantation, only country club, always bet on the pleasure of breeding horses, slaves, slap skin into speed, watch cotton grow, pick, a nigga, pick, antebellum, ring, 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 such American pedigree. White men get free rides and chase tail. White men get free rides, chase black tail. Serena in neon, muscular and mouthy, grunting like a normal human and Compton. Who taught her to keep pace with French tongues? The crowd is anticipating this poor, unexpected black Serena, more Egyptian than horse. Serena still on the outside again, never crowned American Pharoah. Giddy up like police, mounting black bodies on pavements. How fast must she run between history and manure? How fast must she run between net and noose? She is a she, hair in beads, an abacus on her shoulders, counting the burden of winning, counting the danger of excellence. America's in a firm lead. It's a safe bet. All the race cars checked. Ready, ready, ready. Cash in. What stallions America makes, breaks them. It's a breakaway for America. In front, always in front, animal-like, always. Serena, the speed of 1,000 feet of gold, closing in, closing in. This is history. This is history making black women less than animal. The only way to be heard is to growl and slam. Serena more than a skin's distance to go. She's gaining more distance to go, gaining more distance to go. America overlay. Serena running with time, running out of time, running, more distance to go, more distance to go, closing in, more distance to go. America home, more distance to go. Serena, running. Last poem. And thank you all for listening. The water next time might be in your city. Ask Flint, ask New Orleans, how water travels rivers and throats, our mouths an ocean of salt and bones. There are drummers underwater, under floorboards, decoding shores, pushing tables and cars on their backs, ashes of truth scattered like rain. We die a little each day, drown in penitentiary zip codes, north or south. It's winter everywhere. Our water is your water. You, them, you, us. Ask your mama how water breaks into newborn survival breath, head barely above tombstone. I want the dirt of garden on my hands. Where did the skyscrapers take our breath? Who can stop the rising? Earth could have been more than a purse, more than a rich graveyard for birds to adore. Who peeled the trees and sold the limbs? Who tarnished the land with king-size living? Who burned the sugar out the stars? We, the water. We, the wounded. Thank you.
Kelly, that was awesome. Thank you so much. You put such tremendous energy into your poetry. And it's just always just a pleasure to hear you read and perform. And so your book, everybody probably can see on the shelf behind you in your hand. This is the book that it's in its second edition, and it's Freedom Knows My Name. It's a great book, and thank you so much for sharing your work. That was amazing. Okay, our second poet tonight is Rodger Kamenetz, who is Professor Emeritus at LSU, where he taught for 28 years. He has 14 books of poetry, which is pretty amazing. 14 books of poetry and prose, which includes the international bestseller, The Jew and the Lotus, and The History of Last Night's Dream, which was actually featured on Oprah Winfrey's Soul series. His latest books of poetry are Yonder, that came out in 2018, and Dream Logic, which also came out in 2020. You can find him at Kamenetz.com. Please welcome Rodger Kamenetz.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Gina, and thanks for all who are here. Yeah, Kelly was mentioning about her mom going to community college, and I was able to teach community college for 5 years before I came to LSU, and I actually taught in the school where, if you watch watch The Wire, that's where, what's his name? Idris Elba. Anyway, I know him by the actor name. That's where he went to college. So I didn't teach him, but that's where he went. So I'm going to read some poems, and some are very new, and they're about to come out in a anthology of prose poetry. I've been writing in prose poetry the last 5 or 6 years, not entirely, but so I thought I'd read a few of those new ones. And the first one's called The Metaphysics of Goofy. And by Goofy, I mean, of course, Goofy in Disney World, the Disney character, and the huge metaphysical problem posed by the fact that in that world there's Goofy and also Pluto. It's always a problem, isn't it? When is a dog not a dog? There's a dog in this space named Pluto. Does Goofy walk Pluto? The silence of Pluto hints eternity, though I am allergic to hints. Whether you exist or not, what is absolute? Does Goofy so wonder? Does Goofy know he exists? Mickey's squeak never doubts. Donald's spit-flecked quack struggles. Holding hands, they look to the stars. Does vastness exist, or is it a human construct? Does a duck have hands? Why does he wear a top but no bottom? Is there a bottom to every top? Our concepts, all cartoons, wish hard, dark lines. But they're just ideas, noble or goofy. Dawn hurries to replace us all with light. I have a friend, a poet. His name is Noah Warren, and I met him here in New Orleans. He's quite an accomplished poet. We were talking. He sent me a poem and asked me to do some revisions, and I wrote this poem instead. So it's kind of like the situation that some of you might be in the class where you're revising each other's work. It's called revisions. Please replace remove with indifference in line 4. And where I am swollen, an incipient bud, please nip. When the sun appears on the polished wooden table, please rewrite it as a lemon. When you slice the lemon, use brackets to cut. When you scallop the melon, use parentheses. You will find an alphabet hides in seeds, sliding in melon goo. Lady the letters and plant them in the wind. When words come back to you, breathe deep the harsh smoke of a cigarette. Feel a pleasant ache in your lungs. Replace lungs with longing. Sing a little. Remove all commas. Remove all periods, all the dots. Nothing is stopping here. The sweet fruit rolls on trucks from the orchards. The rough hands that pick them will be soothed by rougher hands. Trust there's enough love for one more night. If you count the lines from the bottom, they add up to nothing. In line 0, I was sleeping on all my corrections. I will wake inside them in line 1. So this poem is for a friend who I've known, really got me started with poetry. I've known him since I was 15, and I went to see him in his last days this summer in San Francisco, and I guess this poem came a little bit later, and it's called The Protocol. When you reach the end of the line, take your wattle basket, your Pomeranian, your apple or other hand fruit, and walk slowly. You will find gravity has failed slightly here, and time itself is a disease. Please don't wobble. The pleasant young woman who waits by the tracks to greet you will hand you the secret of death in an envelope. Note the handwritten note, a personal touch. Yes, they have prepared for you alone number 3,730,300,041. You are no more anonymous than anyone. See the signature of splendor in the cartouche. You were asked certain questions of life, even if you failed generally, so be prepared to sing the answers. Your song, individual and miniature as bird song, will join the chorus. A band of trumpets and tubas will chortle along. You will feel unsteady, queasy. Hold your breaths or count them. Watch your thoughts rise like bubbles at the bottom of a flute of fine champagne. Did you expect they would never end? The last bubble unseats itself, rises bravely without waver, and joins the mother air. The Pomeranian barks. The Murdered Angel. like moments of genius wasted on a crossword puzzle, or brilliance unseen in sunshine, or a bird song that might have been theme of a symphony, I would gather you, if I could, heap of shadows on the floor, from randomness or illegitimate weather. I would save you, praying for meaning, lift you into the light, though you are a murdered angel, your human cries strangled by noise of a machine. Do engines turn under the earth, or is that the motor of your heart that beats so loudly? I hear you from an arm away. Let me touch you at least, my fallen friend, shadow of a memory, old friend. So those are the poems that are coming sometime in the anthology. And I'm going to read some poems from the books that Gina mentioned, Yonder and Dream Logic, that came out in the last couple of years, which we're very grateful that happened. So this poem is called The Double Room, and it's after a French poem by Charles Baudelaire, La Chambre Double, which begins a room that resembles a reverie. And in the poem, there's a line in English. It says, compared to a pure dream, definite art, positive art is blasphemy. So here's my response to that poem. The Double Room. I live in a double room. In one room, night is a drug. In the other room, night does not exist. I open my eye in one room, and in the other room, my eye closes and sees all that the first eye does not see. I see through the ocean in one room that all is made of waves. I see through the window in the other room that all is bright appearance. Peeking in through the window from the outside of one room, I see inside my own mind in the other room. I am asleep in the first room, and darting lights puncture the dark. In the other room, I observe clouds prowl, pounce, slide, and ponder. One darling cloud has the definite shape of a fish unidentified in the book of fish. The fish book hides in the other room among all books. I live in both rooms. In which am I truly awake? One room calls to the other to say, you are asleep, have always been asleep. When I wake from a dream, I'm never sure that the bed is real. There was a movie called The Revenant. I don't know if you saw it. It's kind of an amazing movie. And I'm not sure, I just stole the title. I'm not sure the poem has anything to do with that, but it does mention song maidens. And I wanted to make clear that, you know, what you can't make clear when you're reading, that these are maidens from the Song dynasty of 10th to 13th century China. And this was during the time when they would have their feet bound, which is hard to approve of. So the Revenant. I guess I'm speaking as the Revenant. It's good to write posthumous poetry in case you die. That way people can still read you as if you were speaking to them. Whitman has some great poems like that, actually. Although Ted Berrigan had a poem that says something like, you people of the future, I hate you. I don't care if you read my poetry or not, you know, which I thought was kind of a different take. Anyway, that's not my take. If I come to you in a dream, will you still recognize me? I may be the little dog yapping underfoot to taste your annoyance, or I may be an ocean without water or salt, so you might swim in me in longing. In this life, I may often be invisible to you, the weight of a shadow on the ground. Feel me with your thoughts. They are small wooden hammers covered in felt. You can hear notes in your sleep. Alone, I am a minor key. When the kiss of the hammer skips a beat, the stretched string mourns in its pegs. I am just the other side of all music, like a song maiden behind a screen of willows. Checking the time. So I'm going to read this poem for my mother. It starts with a question that she always asked me just before piano lesson. Of course, the answer was no, but the question was, did you practice? So, did you practice? You have to be willing to make mistakes. My thumb on the middle C wandered over to Venus. Soon I was playing yellow smoke, breathed to intoxication. Just beyond toxic, the left hand turned to the bag of the B. One sweet taste and Beethoven can't be 2B flat. I rose up on a sharp that lifted me into an indefinite equation. Solving for X, I hammered out a chord between peace and Germany. White doves left over from the armistice squawked their way through turbulent chords that rose from the well of the piano. Then we whirled around in triplets till the organic chemistry of the moment came to a rest, suspended high overhead in silence, like a god who decided, just be. Just be, that's all, then C, then D, then C. I heard all those notes. Then they became me. Then they flew on beyond me. Okay, there's time for a couple more, I guess. So I'm going to read another poem for my mother. Why not? It's mothers deserve poems. Dragonfly for my mother. Animals eat here, some so tiny their world is but a stone. Hunger a pinpoint, they drink a dew. The garden throbs with them. Iridium, bits of rainbow, needle greens, penetrating blues. Who named them darning needles? Nightmare horses, names born of fear. Their veined wings, a double set, beat back the air of occasion, become occasion. They keep distance from nectar. They snatch mosquitoes, tear their wings in the air, their head all eyes. How could an insect, a dog, have life and not you? They snatch elegy mid-flight, hover with glints of loss. Unlike dragonflies, memory stings. The adventure of who you were lives in me. And when I go, who will carry the envelope? Who read the letter inside? I love that doorbell ringing every time. It's kind of amazing. It sounds like you're in a department store or elevator or something. It's kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to read a couple poems that are not, they're somewhat theological, I guess. And one is called An Empty Closet. And I think one of the 99 names of God is you, so it's dedicated to you. If there's a secret to being known, is there a secret to being unknowable? Either way, I would like to step into a closet and change not just my clothes, my face, my hair, my eyes. I would like to change my hands to touch you. I would like to change my jokes into prayers. I would sneak up on you like the shadow under your foot. Unknown, I would be your path. In a secret closet, I would hang my arms, my heart. I would hang my lungs like a vest and watch them tremble with breath. I would lay my eyes like cufflinks in a tray. But then, how would I see you? The same way I hold the knob of an invisible door and walk out toward emptiness and you, through emptiness to you. Yeah, I guess there's time for just a second theological poem. It's called More Questions, and it's a quote from the German mystic Meister Eckhart. I mean, who isn't a mystic? I don't know. Everyone should be. But he said this wonderful thing: I see God with the same eye God sees me. You say God does not exist, but no one says, I do not exist. Please tell me where I exist and when. Am I behind my forehead? Am I invisible in a sky? Am I looking down at you? Am I seeing through these eyes? Am I walking down the street past other eyes, thinking I exist? Am I my hand? Then how is it mine? Am I my thoughts? Do I just think I exist? Am I a center radiating detachment? A thumb on a scale that weighs the hand? Am I a lost cause in a lost? I looked, I felt, I decided, I slept, I fell down a hole with no capacity to feel. I launched myself up. I shook off damage. I ate cotton. I watched the sun. I called it a day. Please tell me I am, as I believe myself to be. I live to hear your word. As I am packed in my cocoon, a butterfly in waiting. Tell me who I am. Tell me where am I, and how do I speak these words, and how do I begin? Thank you all for listening. Thank you all. Good night.
Roger, thank you so much. Those were just terrific. The questions that you ask in your poetry, they're questions I think that all of us should be asking, and so thank you really for sharing your beautiful work. We are going to open it up for questions now. We have some time. And so I think maybe the way to do this is for, if you have a question, maybe you can type it in chat. I know a student asked a question about, she wanted to know, it's from Lintrell. So to both poets, she wanted to know, what is important to the speakers as poets? What's important to you both?
Do you want me to go first, Roger? It's important to me that I can see the poem. I like images in poetry. I like all of my senses to be engaged. It's important to me to challenge myself. That may not be necessarily something you can see on the page, but that is important to me as well, to try to also do things that I haven't always done, to try to be innovative as well with not only the words, but my voice, is why I see the hand as an instrument and so is my voice. So I try to create experiences within poems. I hope that answers the question.
That's a wonderful question. I don't know the answer. I think what's important is whatever is that sense of something new coming up within me that takes the form of words and seems to happen often and spontaneously. And if I just think it's such an exciting and amazing thing that something ever new is ever evolving is happening in each one of us. And we have different ways of experiencing that. I believe that, though. I believe that we're all like that. We all have this primary imagination, which if you happen to be bent that way, I think as Kelly is, and I am, and Gina is, and others here, then it comes as words, as word love. But I think as Kelly was saying, that it's not just word, the words themselves are almost things that carry images. They aren't. There's a feeling of words as being not just a phenomena, but a noumenon, a thing in themselves that we feel feelings about, and to experience them all working together. It's just such a wonderful way to be in the world. Well.
Unmuting myself. Mason Joyner asks, he's always interested in professional poets writing routines and regimens. What degree of structure do you hold yourselves to in writing your poems?
Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh,
Like, yes.
you go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, okay, all right. I did.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Okay, I will. I would say I was smiling a little bit about the word professional poets. I understand the feeling that's behind that, and I just want to say everyone here is a professional poet, or everyone here is an amateur poet. It's just keep doing it, and along the way, if it becomes something you can't stop doing, it'll manifest. You'll be a poet because you love it. And so there's nothing out there that certifies anybody, despite all the secondary effects of being out there and doing poems over and over again. Things happen, things get published, or people throw eggs at you, or whatever happens. But for me, just responding to the itch and not putting it off, not saying I'll write it later, but doing it now, whenever. In fact, in recent years, I think I've gotten more productive, because whenever my anti-me said, no, you can't do that, I would immediately write a poem in response to that. Like I'd say, yes, I can. So I think that just being always open to the possibility, and sometimes, you have to kind of kick yourself in the butt if you can. It's a dance move, and make yourself, just say, whenever you hear the no, not in the mood, or I don't have it today, or I just don't have any ideas, that's when you need to go back and say, no means yes. And you have to do it right then to prove that no is wrong. And then you'll write more poems.
I'm trying to think how I want to approach this question. So I think that everybody has the same process at some point, which is you have to write. Like at some point, everybody has to get it down or typed or whatever. So everybody, writing is this equal opportunity experience where everybody has to get it done at the end of the day. But how we get there, I think, is what I'm assuming is some of Mason's question. For me, the regiment or my process varies depending on life, right? I wrote a lot more early in the mornings before I got married. My writing times have changed as I've had a daughter, different other jobs, all sorts of things happen, hurricanes, so all of these things happen that can influence and shift your writing. And I don't get caught up in that I need to write every day, but I do write words every day, phrases. I try to keep, here's one of my many, and I just write words and phrases. I mean, it's like tons of words and just phrases in there that I don't know if I'm going to use them or not, but they were in my body and I'm getting them out of my body because I feel like I'm always having to build my tool bank or my toolbox, right? So if I get stuck somewhere, sometimes I go back to the toolbox and say, oh, do I have a wrench in here or a nail in here in the form of a phrase or a word that I can work on this poem with? So I think that, and each poem for me is different. There are times that I don't know what I'm going to write. Like, I think I read somewhere that the poem is not the house, right? The poem is the process and everything kind of in it, but it's not the house. So sometimes I walk around the house and I'm like, I'm just trying to like figure out, is there a rhythm? Is there something happening? And my husband and my daughter will laugh at me because I'm doing crazy things around the house to try to jumpstart not only the poem, but the creativity in me, right? So I have to fight against, as Rodger was talking about, the no, but also my own comfortability, right? So it took me time to be able to have the courage to do a poem in an announcer's voice. Like, I don't know too much about horse racing. I don't even know if the poem works, but I am trying to fight against all of the kind of traditions that I've learned. I'm also trying to work with my ear to see like what is possible, like pushing words to the edge for me. How many words can I juggle and keep up in the air? So I think that, I hope that that kind of answers your question. But after I do all of that, I have to write. And I should also say a piece of advice that I cherish dearly, that Yusef Komenyaku has said many times, is to write by hand. I find that when I write by hand, I'm more patient. I have more discovery than when I'm typing, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right. And I just delete. I don't keep the scraps. And so I make sure that I'm trying to keep scraps. These are all scraps of things that are going to make a poem, maybe not today or tomorrow, but somewhere down the line, I'll remember this idea or image or something that'll just come back to me. So that's a long answer probably, but I hope that that is a helpful one.
That's great. It's always kind of interesting to hear about the process and just to kind of see the differences and then the connecting points too.
I just want to respond a little bit because that was really inspiring. That about Yusef saying that, and I knew him, when he was living here quite a while ago, and great poet. I think I've written poems since I was 15. I'm 71, so do the math. Doing it.
Turn the water off. Turn the water off.
Okay. So we pick up voices too. So I've written in every possible different form and way in those years. So I remember I had an old typewriter, Royal typewriter, and I put a roll of
I know somebody that's enough.
Paper on it, and I just typed continually a book of poetry. I currently write using one finger on my iPhone notes. So I've done every different thing, but I think something about if you are using computer or whatever, it's a really good idea to print it out, go over it by hand, type it up again, go over it by hand, go back and forth. Don't lose track. I think what Kelly said there was really important. Don't lose track. She called it the scraps. Don't lose track of things because you're going to want. I remember one time I wrote a poem and I didn't like it. And I was with a friend and he was fishing around in my wastebasket and he saw the poem. He said, "What is this?" He pulled it out and read it to me. He said, "This is really great." And he was right. It was pretty good. So got to keep your scraps. I agree with, that's a really good piece of advice. You never know.
I believe it was Marion Moore who was she clipped things, right? And she kind of kept scraps and clippings of things. And so maybe we don't do that so much anymore, but maybe we don't have to because, news is kind of always at our fingertips and kind of newsworthy things. But that's interesting to kind of hear you both talk about this. So we have time for one more question. And the question is, and it's from Genevieve Reams. Rodger's voice tells him no. And so that makes her wonder, have you both ever struggled with imposter syndrome as writers? And how do you both deal with it to keep moving forward in your writing life?
sorry, I was muted. I'm going to try to answer that question and try to blend my answers to some of these other questions I see in the chat really quickly. So I think I kind of alluded to that when I talked about things that I try now in my poetry I wouldn't try now. Like right now, I'm just competing kind of against myself. Like I was like, what else can I do, Kelly? Like get it together. What is the other thing? So, but that comes with maturity, that comes with courage. I came out of performance. I shouldn't say I came out because people still say that I do. I feel like I do whatever the poem is required to do of me. So I think that the more comfortable you are with yourself and finding your own voice, Jane Cortez, another great jazz poet, says, find your own voice and use it. Use your own voice and find it. And once you find that voice, you become comfortable. You don't have to be like Gina. You don't have to be like Roger. You can just do your thing. And that's really important because once you're authentic, the words will come to you in a way that is authentic for you. So, what can I learn from poetry? I've learned courage as a poet. Should be fair, should take time when I write poetry. Each poem has different paces, different, processes. And some poems take long. I just finally finished a poem I've been trying to write for 3 years and it's finally coming, So you just have to be patient. And sometimes I put things aside and go back to it and work on things. And sometimes, I got one line in, and the reality is you're probably going to write more bad poems than good poems, but the point is to work on it. And Toni Morrison says some people are writers, some people are authors. I'm a writer. I don't always have to publish all the time, but I am a writer. I'm always have to write, but I don't always have to publish. Sorry, Gina, that was a really fast answer of a whole bunch of stuff, but thank you all for listening. I appreciate you and good luck with the rest of your school year.
Wow. Okay. That was good. I don't know how to answer the question. I've never felt that way, I guess. I think I don't even think of my work as good or bad. I just think it's me coming out. It's sort of like a plant growing flowers and saying, oh, that's a good flower and that's a bad flower, but they're all necessary to the plant to make seed. And some flowers the bees like and some they don't, and they don't fall off the stem, but they're all necessary, and everything you make is necessary for one reason or another. And if you start getting hung up on the way the world sees you or the way the world sees you, in general, if you start worrying about the way the world sees you or other people see you, you're in a kind of hell. And certainly when it comes to writing, which comes from so much deep from within and is such an ongoing natural process of soul. I mean, everyone here has a soul and your soul speaks poetry. And that's true of every person on the planet, in my opinion. So I don't divide. I think some people get damaged around that. And so they stop making poems. But if everyone were really let alone, they would always be making poems. And they make them in their conversation. They make them when they make love. They make them just like the line that Kelly heard about, love, right? She heard it from the neighbor, I guess. I mean, maybe she made the whole thing up, but it felt like something you'd heard, right? And it was poetry, right? It hit you that way. And it's all around us. So we don't have to, it's just like you wouldn't say to a friend, gee, that was a B- conversation you just said with me, or that was a really not one of your best sentences. I mean, why would you do that to yourself or to anybody else? So just have faith in what you're doing, because it comes from a beautiful place in you, even if it doesn't always come out beautifully. That's part of just practice, I think.
Okay, well, thank you so much, both of you, to Kelly and to Roger, for really just presenting their amazing work, their amazing poetry, and also just kind of the words that you have, your reflective words about your process and what poetry is in the world and kind of where we go with it and what we do with it. So thank you very much for that. Thank you everyone who attended. Again, thank you to our English department and also to Poets and Writers for making this event possible. And, you know, poetry, may it live on. So with that, I will kind of stop the meeting, and thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.